Hello everyone, this is Shrikante, and today we are going to explore a psychological framework that helps us understand one of the most important aspects of being human, our values. Now, when we talk about values, we are talking about those deeply held beliefs that influence how we think, act, or feel. Now, these values shape the way that we interact with others, how we make decisions, and even how we define success and happiness. Now, a psychologist named Shalom Schwartz studied this across many cultures, and what he found was actually really powerful. Now, despite our differences, people around the world tend to be guided by a common set of 10 core values. Now, these values might look different in how they are expressed, but they're still present and meaningful in every society. Now, understanding these values helps us reflect on what we personally stand for and also helps us understand where others are coming from, especially when we see things from a different point of view. It allows us to develop empathy and navigate relationships with more awareness and respect. So, as we begin this journey into the Schwartz human values, I just wanted to let you guys know that this is a continuation of of the previous video. So, let's get started. Now, our values don't just influence what we think or believe. They also deeply affect how we connect with others. Now, think about it. If one of your core values is honesty, you're probably more likely to speak your mind and expect the same openness from other people. If someone even lies to you, even once, it might shake up the foundation of that relationship. On the other hand, if someone shares your value of honesty, you are likely to feel safer and more connected with them. Now, consider another value like achievement. If you highly value success and hard work, you may naturally gravitate towards people who are ambitious and driven like you. But you might also feel frustrated if you are close with someone who doesn't share the same level of motivation or urgency. But this doesn't mean we can only be close to people with the exact same values. But understanding where we align and where we differ helps us navigate the conflict, expectations, and communication more effectively. When we don't understand the values behind someone's behavior, we often misinterpret it. But when we take time to reflect, for questions, for like example, what do I value or like what do they value, it allows us for more empathy and less judgment. So here's a question to carry with you today. How do your values show up in your friendships, your family dynamics, or your interactions with classmates? And just as important, how can understanding someone else's values help you strengthen your relationship with them? So in today's video, we're going to dig more deeper into that. So let's get started. Now, let's take a look at one of the more complex values in the Schwartz theory, which is power. Now, power as a human value isn't just about control or dominance like the superhero. It's more about the drive for influence, recognition, and status. Many people are motivated by the desire to make an impact, to lead, or to be seen as a successful or a respected person, and in many ways that is very understandable. But power can bring opportunities, security, and a sense of achievement. But it is also important to understand that power always comes with the trade-offs. Now, the pursuit of power can sometimes lead to conflict, manipulation, or in imbalances in relationships, especially when it overrides other values like empathy, fairness, or cooperation. Now, in social dynamics, people who are strongly driven by the power might make decisions that benefit their status, even if it means taking risks with relationships or bending ethical lines. So, this is why it's important to stay self aware. Like, you can ask yourself this question: is my desire for control helping or harming the people around me? Or is it building respect or just fear or distance? But on the flip side, power can be used positively when it's guided by values like responsibility, justice, or service. For example, a leader who values power and benevolence, which we will talk in the few slides later, may use their influence to uplift others rather than to dominate them. Now, let's take a moment to talk about one of the most foundational human values, which is security. Now, security, or known as the need for safety or stability, is something all of us feel on some level, even if we don't always talk about it. It's not just about physical safety, though that is incredibly important. It's also about emotional and psychological safety. Now, feeling secure means knowing you can rely on the people around you, that your environment is predictable, and that you're not constantly bracing for something to go wrong. Now, when we feel safe, we are more willing to learn, trust, and take healthy risks. And that's why security plays such an important role in childhood development, relationships, and even our mental health. It gives us the foundation to grow. Now, think about how this value influences the decisions that we make. Now, many people choose jobs, relationships, or even routines not because they're exciting, but because they offer the consistency. And that isn't the weakness, it's actually called wisdom. For some, the ability to plan, to have structure, to feel supported, that's what allows them to thrive. But there's a flip side. If we cling too tightly to security, we might resist change, and when change is necessary for our growth, even when a change is necessary for our growth. So that's why it's so important to be aware of when we are acting from a need for stability, and whether that's helping us or holding us back. So here's the takeaway. Security isn't just a comfort zone, it's more like a launch pad. When we feel safe, we can step forward with more confidence. And when we create security for others, we also help them to thrive too. Now, let's talk about something we have all experienced: the pressure to fit in. Now, that's also called conformity. So, conformity is a value that reflects to the desire to be accepted by others, to avoid standing out too much, and to maintain harmony as a group. In a group, sorry. This can be especially strong in school, in friendships, and even in family dynamics. And let's be honest, on some level, we all want to feel belong, and that is natural. And that is natural. So, in fact, conformity can serve a really useful purpose in society. It helps groups function more smoothly. It encourages cooperation. It also reduces the conflict, which is good, right? And when we share a common set of expectations or behaviors, it actually creates a sense of safety and predictability. But, and this is important, it can come at a cost. So when we conform too much, we may compromise our own values, opinions, or identity just to fit in. And over time, that can create inner conflict, resentment, or a feeling of losing touch with who we really are. And it is especially difficult when the group's expectations go against what we believe or what feels right to us. So this is where actually the self-awareness comes in. We have to ask ourselves, am I doing this because I truly agree, or just because I don't want to rock the boat? Both. There's a balance between honoring community and honoring yourself. So like as you reflect, remember this: fitting in isn't the same thing as belonging. Fitting in often means changing who you are to be accepted, and belonging means being accepted for who you are. And that's a much more empowering place to live from. Now, this is my favorite value, and now this is a value that often carries the deep emotional meaning, which is tradition. So tradition is about more than just rituals or holidays. It actually represents the customs, beliefs, and practices passed down through generations that help shape our sense of identity. But whether it's religious ceremonies, cultural events, family routines, or even the language we speak, tradition connects us to where we come from, and that connection can be grounding. Traditions gives us a sense of belonging, and they help us understand our place in a larger story. They provide stability, especially during times of change or uncertainty. For many people, honoring tradition is also a way to show respect to their elders, their community, and their ancestors. But again, here's a key point. While tradition can be enriching, it can also conflict our personal values and modern beliefs. Sometimes customs may feel outdated or they may not align the way that we want to live today. And that can be difficult, especially when there's pressure to preserve tradition, even at a cost of personal authenticity or emotional health. So again, balance is this is why balance is so important. We can honor the wisdom and beauty of the past, but also making space for change and growth. It's not about rejecting the tradition. It's about evolving it in a way that still supports of who we are becoming. So here's something to think about: which traditions in your life feel meaningful and grounding, and are there any that you have questioned or redefined to better reflect who you are today? So this kind of reflection helps us carry forward the best of our heritage while also staying true to ourselves. Now, obviously, let's take a moment to talk about a value that many of us instinctively recognize but also might not always pause to name: benevolence. Now, benevolence is all about kindness, loyalty, and care in our close relationships. And it's the value that drives us to help a friend who's having a hard time, to stand up for someone even when they're not around, or simply just to check in and say, "How are you really?" Now, this value actually plays a major role in building the trust. When people feel cared for, when they know they matter to someone else, they become more emotionally secure. And that's why benevolence isn't just to support others, it also enhances our own sense of fulfillment and connection. Now, loyalty also has another part to this. It means sticking by people, not just blindly, but with a commitment to the relationship and to growth. It creates a sense of safety, and that's essential for stronger emotional bonds. But as with all values, it is important to find balance. Now, being kind doesn't mean saying yes to everything and allowing ourselves to be taken for granted. Healthy benevolence also includes boundaries. True kindness is thoughtful and sustainable. It's not about self-sacrificing to the point of exhaustion. Now, here's something to reflect on. Where in your life do you practice benevolence regularly, and how do you balance kindness towards others with kindness towards yourself? Now, when benevolence is genuine and mutual, it becomes one of the most powerful forces for emotional well being, both individually and within communities. Now, this is the last core value, which is universalism. So this value actually invites us to look at the world with a wider lens. Now, at its core, universalism is all about tolerance, social justice, and global awareness. Now, it encourages us to see beyond our own culture, background, or beliefs, and recognize the value from in people who are different from us, whether it's the diversity in language, religion, nationality, or lifestyle. Universalism teaches that difference is not a threat but a strength. Now, this value is especially important in a world that is increasingly connected. We live in different diverse classrooms, cities, and countries, and if we want to build communities that are not just functional but respectful and compassionate, and we have to develop the ability to understand perspectives of the other than our own. So universalism includes the pursuit of justice, which means standing up against discrimination, supporting equality, and helping others gain access to the opportunities that they deserve. When we live by this value, we're not just thinking about me or my people. We're asking, how can everybody thrive? And of course, practicing universalism can be uncomfortable. It often it it often requires us to confront our own biases and challenge the systems that we are part of. But that's how the growth happens, through awareness, through empathy and action. So I want you to consider, where do you already practice tolerance in your life, and where might have room to expand your understanding or advocate for justice. whether it's in your school, your community, or beyond. Now, this value reminds us that being human means being connected, and the more that we live with that awareness, the more we help shape a world that's fair, inclusive, and compassionate. So, we will just recap this really quickly, and we will talk about the important ideas from the Schwartz theory of values. Now, obviously, firstly, our values aren't just about us. They actually shape how we connect and relate to people, relate to other people. Now think about it. When your value affects this kind of friendships and relationships and that you build. Secondly, it's really important to find a balance among your values. If you focus too much on one thing and ignore the others, it can cause stress or unhappiness. When your values are in balance, it supports your emotional well-being and helps you feel more stable and content. Finally, when you take time to understand which values are important to you and prioritize them, you're more likely to feel fulfilled in life. And it also helps you guide your choices and gives your life more meaning. So, by understanding and balancing your values, you can improve not only your own happiness but also your relationships with others. So, see, finding balance isn't always easy, but it's a key to find it's key to feeling good emotionally and living a fulfilling life. So take some time to think about what matters to you and use that to help shape the person that you want to become. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day and bye.